At the initial stage of their creative journey, the creators of Rick and Morty clearly adhered to a certain philosophical concept. It was a period of determinism, rejection of traditional human values, and promotion of the meaninglessness of existence. All these ideas permeate us thanks to Rick's grandfather and the unique atmosphere of the series, which presents before us a complete multi-dimensional reality in its full grandeur. However, it is unknown how often the authors of the beloved cartoon contradicted their own statements regarding infinity and its perception on the part of the viewer. In the universe of the Rick and Morty series, there are an incalculable number of parallel worlds. The main character himself literally denotes this fact. At a certain point, however, Rick created a certain limiting curve that covered only a portion of all worlds and included those where Sanchez is a prominent being. Proof of this can be found in how Rick defeated even the gods. I fully accept this phenomenon. It seems logical to me that Rick was able to set the limit of the multiverse for himself and everyone within that finite curve. Consequently, I have no claim to the events that took place while this curve was in operation in the timeline. I have only one thought on this matter. At first, the creators of the series didn't think to develop the concept of limiting the multiverse at all. However, when it became clear to them that Rick and Morty was gaining a much greater level of seriousness in terms of universe development, they made the decision to introduce a finite curve. This was done to fill in plot gaps created in the early seasons due to the notion that the multiverse was infinite, which actually turned out not to be infinite. Recall the Cronenberg scene. By accident, Rick turned all of Earth's inhabitants into horrible monsters, forcing our heroes to find a new habitat. They escaped to another world where the virus problem was solved. If there are an infinite number of parallel universes, why can't our grandfather change them like gloves in an infinite loop? Then we witness the Citadel of Rick, lost in an unknown universe. If it belongs to a certain parallel, are there similar citadels in other worlds? And why did the evil Rick, actually evil Morty, who controls his Rick, make a list of all the Reeks if there must be an infinite number of them? To all these riddles, the authors offered a surprising and quite logical answer. The multiverse is bounded by a central finite curve, which is located permanently in the Citadel of the Reeks. The most fascinating moment begins when evil Morty captures and destroys the Citadel along with the central finite curve, leaving it at a later date. In this way, the creators have settled their previous flaws, but what happens next, now that the multiverse is fully open to our heroes? An infinite number of universes implies an infinite variety of similar and different realities. Thus, Rick C-137, as he is called, within the central finite curve, is now bound to have an infinite number of clones, with exactly the same history as every other character in the series. Universes started changing like gloves. Now there are no smartest and dumbest. Everything has lost its meaning. Love, death, betrayal. All these events happen and have happened in an infinite number of realities, and also simultaneously do not happen. There it is, the true philosophy of the Rick and Morty multiverse. Total chaos. What did the creators just present to us during all this time? We see dinosaurs that are said to be superior to Rick in intelligence. It is in this episode that the lack of a central finite curve is exploited. All of the other Rick and Morty related storylines develop in a familiar setting. Nothing has changed. While the creators seem to have opened the veil of the multiverse and stopped limiting it, they still seem to assume a finite number of worlds. Take, for example, a fascinating moment from episode 5 of season 7. Prime Rick clearly states that he was the first to invent a portal device to travel between worlds when the central finite curve didn't yet exist. And here's the catch: you can't pick out from infinity something specific happening for the first time in only one universe. If Prime created a portal gun in his reality, it, at the same moment, existed in absolutely identical realities where another Rick created the same thing. There are an infinite number of universes, as well as combinations of events in them. In a multiverse, everything happened and nothing happened in different circumstances, or lack thereof. Yes, it sounds pretty absurd what I just described, but the human mind is simply unable to fully embrace and comprehend the vastness of infinity. Even I, while saying all this, am actually unable to form an image in my mind of how it could look and function. However, no one forced the creators of Rick and Morty to base their plot on such a complex concept as an infinite multiverse. Like time travel, it created plot holes and story inconsistencies in various works of screenwriting. Rick and Morty is no exception here. Authors use parallel realities as they see fit, and there's nothing wrong with that. 8. If the multiverse really stretched vastly and infinitely, the storylines in the series would become non-linear and devoid of logical development, which would make watching them less exciting. We wish to experience the characters, to get into their stories and feel with them. But this would be difficult if even the characters themselves are faced with the senselessness of what is happening. That said, I wouldn't excuse the Rick and Morty writers for their choice to create a story in the context of the infinite multiverse. If they choose to tell a story in such a setting, let them do so while adhering to the established rules of this unique world.